I'm here with Greg Stanley, and today's topic is about case acceptance and kind of the levels of case acceptance. Greg, could you describe to the listeners, the doctors out there, kind of the levels of case acceptance as we see them?
Sure, good question. In fact, this kind of came up when we were talking about practices' response to inflation. Like, we know that raising prices on the surface fixes inflation, but maybe there's a downside later, which we know there is. You mentioned that getting better case acceptance is really a viable response to inflation, to raising prices, to avoid raising prices right away. Maybe you're going to do it soon. So we found that case acceptance from years of experience occurs at different levels. Doctors tend to think of it as all or nothing. And that's not what's really going on. There is cases that are presented where the patient buys nothing, goes away, and ends up in another dental office. Okay, that's a failure. And you can always say, well, I didn't want that patient. We don't like people like that, or whatever. That's one level. Another one is poor case acceptance. Every other patient says yes. Every other patient says no to everything. There's a level of case acceptance you can actually get across the board. And to me, you're still suffering. That is, everybody buys something, or maybe everything you say, but they don't refer anybody. They feel like you were too heavy-handed. The staff were too heavy-handed. Something about it made them feel trapped, manipulated, and they're not comfortable referring, even though you might find that they're even glad they got the dentistry done.
Yeah, how would you identify this? So if I'm a doctor listening at home, how do I know that that's me? What would be the signs?
Well, a normal practice will have 20 referrals per doctor. Actually, the number is 21. So if you have 4, which we've run into this so many times, you have 3 or 4, in some cases 1, you found somebody that liked the way you did it. Probably they just got more money than they know what to do with.
So it's really the referral rate.
It's the referral rate is what tells you you're on track. Now, that tells you you're getting the secondary effect, meaning people buy the dentistry, they tell other people about you. So this is level 2, case acceptance, no referrals. Level 3 is case acceptance with referrals.
Okay, so if I was
You
at
hit
home
your
and
21.
if I had good case acceptance, my practice was doing really well, but I had low amounts of referrals, I would know I'm in that second phase,
You're stuck.
which could make it difficult to grow the practice.
Case acceptance with referrals, you're hitting that balance between what you see that the patient really needs and what they came in thinking they needed, and you're swaying them to the degree you can. Now, let's go to level 4, which is the ultimate. This is case acceptance with what we call referral intensity. This is a patient that buys their dentistry, is so thrilled that they go home, or excuse me, on their drive home, they're calling people to tell them to come into your office. This is typically found in practices that have great sedation offerings. And so they tune their marketing to get more of a phobic, and they really tune up sedation of some level, whether it's nitrous, triazolam, or IV. And these people are happy. I mean, they're thrilled to finally have found a dentist that listens to them, that respects what they need. And these people become sales. They're in a restaurant telling everybody around them, you got to go see this guy. Man, I didn't feel a thing. It was wonderful. So
and practices like that could see 100 referrals a month.
Yeah.
By comparison. So you're sitting there with 2 or 3 and hoping to get to 15 to 20. And practices like Greg's talking about will have 100.
The first guy who taught me this was Dr. Roger Abbott in Atlanta, who, when I met him, was doing this. He was getting 77 referrals a month. And the first person who ever taught me that people will call somebody on their way home to refer them, and it's pretty predictable. He went on from there to hundreds of new patients a month. See, what happens It's when you get marketing people having marketing patients in the practice, having that incredible wow experience. And it's not just people smiling and being friendly. I mean, something is well beyond their expectation that means something to them. That's when you get referral intensity. And let me tell you that our doctors in that category, inflation, recession, anything short of a nuclear exchange between a third world country, we're going to do well. They do very well.
Getting good case acceptance and a medium amount of referrals is probably 15 to 20 referrals per month. You're getting people to go home and kind of drag their wife in maybe, or their husband, and that's about it.
That's another thing you taught me about getting in their family.
Yeah, if you're looking at your practice and you're seeing 10 new patients a month and hardly getting any referrals, what that tells you is these 10 people that saw you, everybody has some significant other. They can't even talk them into coming into your practice. I mean, that's how bad it is. There's something so
Off-putting.
off-putting, destructive in terms of building long-term relationship and trust, that they're not willing to really lean into, hey, you're going here now. I've made up the mind for you, Greg. You're gonna make this appointment and you're going there now. If they had a decent experience, they don't have to have the wow experience, but if it's decent, you should be able to get the spouse or significant other to come in. And so we typically say that you should at least get 50-50. So 50% of your patients should be from, maybe they searched the internet, maybe they saw you on insurance, or they drove by. And then the other half should be from referrals. If you're not getting that, something's not going well.
I'll tell you an exciting thought for me, for us that deal with this every day, is if you can get this impact on patients where they go out just singing a song about you, inflation, recession, it really doesn't matter. You have insulated yourself from most of what can happen to a practice.
Well, you're a hyper effective business owner at that point. I mean, you're talking about businesses that are run so well, they're going to be the last ones affected by any kind of recession. And so if you're able to ring the bell at that level, yeah, you got nothing to worry about.
You know, we had people, and this one really shocked me. They even set records at the height of pandemic. And when pandemic was closing offices, they were getting people in from emergencies, which allowed them to still see people. And they did incredibly well from it because people had been referred there so strongly.
If you were to describe kind of some of the pillars of what makes patients refer, or certainly maybe you could go from it, what are the things that make people not refer as they enter a practice? What kind of list would you put
Funny,
together?
it's the same things. The same thing to make them refer is make them not refer. For example, they don't refer when they're pitched something hard that they weren't expecting.
Right.
They didn't think they needed it, and you're pitching it. And on the other end, when we pitch them or when we give them something wonderful that they weren't expecting, then we're all good. So that's kind of what it comes down to.
You can have things like convenience be a problem, meaning if it's difficult to get in, they're not going to refer with any kind of intensity. If the fees are off, you could have referral intensity problems. There's a whole list of things that team members, everybody's got to be in a great mood and enjoy working there.
We've isolated this down to these very things. We know that there is price points in dentistry that you'll know you're there when the patient buys dentistry and comes back, but you don't get any referrals, or you don't even get their family. There's a point. And yes, a staff member that's so rude that people get their dentistry and they'll slink in and get more dentistry, but they're not going to send a friend in to get treated like that.
Right, right.
All right. So if this is on your mind, if you feel like we touched on something that's affecting you now, or you would like to experience this wonderful state of more referrals than you can deal with, get on the phone to Wes and I, and let's talk about where you might be falling short or what you could be offering with a little change and have this experience. All we ask is that you give us a Google review. That's all we ask. So we'll have a link with this. Get on it, make an appointment with us. We're looking forward to talking to you about these things.
All right, yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you
Thank
guys
you.
next time.